Namaste, everyone. This is the part 2 of a very important question. What to do when you have only 7 days to live? This was a conundrum that was faced by King Parikshit, and he was cursed by Rishi Shringi that on the 7th day the serpent named Takshak will come and put an end to his life. So he decides to take off. He first gives away his kingdom to his son Janmejaya, then goes off to Ganges where all the great sages are accumulated, have gathered, and then Sukadevji comes and then he says, please tell me what to do and please tell me all the stories of the glories of the Lord. So they start the stories, and we've heard many stories with Brahmaji asking Manu and Shatrupa to multiply, and they're saying, okay, but where is everyone going to be? So Narayan comes in the form of Vara, goes into the ocean and brings out earth, and that's where he has to encounter with and fight a fierce battle with Hiranyaksh. But then who is Hiranyaksh? So Hiranyaksh is the incarnation. Hiranyaksh and his by Hiranyakashipu are the incarnation of Jay and Vijay, who were the gatekeepers of Vaikunt, and they were cursed by the Sanat Kumars. So we heard about that story, and then there were other stories, sub-stories. So Prasuti, third daughter, married Daksha, and they had one daughter named Sati, who was married to Lord Shiva. So yesterday we heard that how there was a little animosity and an ego clash between Daksha and Shiv, and he does not invite him, and then he sort of berates Shiv. And then when Sati reaches and sees that this is how her father is behaving, she just abandons everything and abandons the body that has come through the father, and she says, I am indeed ashamed of this body which has come from you, who care not for the soul in your attachment for the body. So she just immolates herself. From the Jata, Veerbhadra has been created by Lord Shiva, and he is now around. He has been ordered that go and lead my whole army and put an end to Daksha and his yajna. So today we start from there. How does he arrive? Like a dust storm. Everything is helter-skelter. Veerbhadra and the warriors of Shiva descended upon the yajna. The priests and guests huddled together in fear. Was it a hurricane? What has happened? Where is all this commotion? What is the reason? Is it a hurricane or a band of robbers? What could be the cause of this approaching volume of dust? Before they could even think straight, the attendants of Shiva had started on their rounds of pollution and destruction. They broke the yajna implements and scattered them all over. They pulled down buildings and put out the sacrificial fires, ran after the rishis and frightened the women. Those of Daksha's priests and supporters who tried to run away were stoned by the followers of Shiva. Some were tied down, and some had their beards uprooted, some had their eyeballs pulled out, and some had their teeth smashed in. Above all, using one of the implements of sacrifice, Veerbhadra just cut off the head of Daksha. After thus completely destroying the place of the yajna, Veerbhadra and Shiva's army returned back to Mount Kailash. The terrified devs now went to Brahma. Brahma and Vishnu, who knew what was going to happen at Daksha's yajna, had kept themselves away from it. Brahma scolded the devs for the way they had insulted Shiva. He said, "Did you not know that by a mere act of his will, Shiv can destroy the entire universe? The least you can do now is go and beg for his forgiveness." Then, at the request of the Devas, Brahma accompanied them to Mount Kailash. There, under a large vat, which is a banyan tree, Lord Shiva sat, absorbed in the Yoga Samadhi. His face glowed with calmness and beauty of meditation. Brahma then requested Shiva to pardon Daksha and his followers, to return them back to life and to allow them to complete the yajna. He very calmly said, "You are the Supreme Brahman. Let not your anger destroy those ignorant Devas. They have learned their lesson now. Henceforth, all the remnants of the yajna offering shall be yours. Accept them and let the sacrifice be completed." Shiv stirred slightly and looked up with a smile. "I have nothing against Daksha. Why? He is as much an offender as an ignorant child. But I have indeed taught a lesson to those who are led astray by Maya. Let them know that I care not for sacrifices on the material level, that I attach no importance to the body whatsoever. The limbs of the Devas shall be restored to them. Daksha's head was burnt up by the yajna implement, so let him now have the head of a goat." The Devas were satisfied. They thanked Shiv and invited him to participate in the yajna. Brahma and Shiv went to the yajna together. Daksha, who had regained life and now had a goat's head, welcomed Shiv with reverence. His mind was now wise and purified. The sacrifice was performed. Daksha sat in deep meditation, when suddenly on the wings of Garuda Shri Vishnu appeared. Beautiful prayers of love and reverence burst forth from the lips of all. Lord Vishnu moved over to where Brahma and Shiva were standing. As they stood there, Brahma's face reflected the pride and happiness of paternal love. Vishnu shone with the very sattva of his being, and Shiv glowed with the divine bliss of meditation. Then Sri Vishnu spoke and said, "Now this is very important. Please, I request all to pay a lot of attention to this and understand, because this is the key." Sri Vishnu spoke and said, "Only the ignorant see the difference between Shiva and me. The wise know that Brahma, Shiva, and I are one. The one assumes the three different aspects of creation, preservation, and destruction of the universe. He who worships even one worships, in fact, all the three. Everything in the whole universe is nothing but the manifestation of this one great truth. Nothing exists apart from it." It's a very key learning. Okay? We have created all these differentiations, but all the three are just one. The Devas and the Rishis were overwhelmed. They prostrated to the Triune and were blessed by the Lord's grace. Such then is the story of Sati. She was born again as Parvati, the daughter of Himavan. After years of rigorous penance, she got married to Shiva. Now, we will go to the next sub-story. Manu Maharaj, 2 daughters' stories we have covered. He had 2 sons and 3 daughters. His first son was King Uttanpad. So now we will hear about the story of Dhruv and Uttanpad. So King Uttanpad had 2 wives. The elder was Suniti and the younger was Suruchi. Suniti had a son called Dhruv. Suruchi had a son called Uttam. Suruchi was very beautiful, and so the king favored her. But she had a terribly jealous and possessive nature, so much so that she would not even let Uttanpad see Suniti or her son. One day, Suruchi was sitting, laughing and chatting with the king, and her son Uttam was playing on his lap. Just then, Dhruv came into the room. He too wanted to climb in his father's knee and play with him. But the king, fearing the anger of Suruchi, paid no attention to him. Suruchi taunted the little boy and said, I have no doubt that you are the king's eldest son, but to be in his favor is a different thing. For that you will have to take birth in my womb. Therefore, go and do penance, so that in your next life you may be born as my son. Sadly, hearing this, with tears in his eyes, Dhruv looked up at his father. But Uttanpad made no move to either embrace him or to hold him close, not even to smile at him. Now, Dhruv, although only 5 years old at the time, was of an extremely sensitive nature. He ran to his mother's apartments and clung to her leg, sobbing uncontrollably. The mother's heart in Suniti bled for him. She took him in her arms, smoothed back the locks of hair from his forehead, and kissed his tears away. She soothed him with soft, loving words and gentle whispers. When his lips had stopped quivering and he had become fairly calm, she said to him, Do not grieve so, my son, at the words of your stepmother. Remember, there is always justice in the eyes of God. Everyone must pay the price for his karmas, good or bad. You must feel sorrow for her rather than anger. Think of the one great truth she told you. Through penance, prayer, and the grace of Narayan, everything is possible. Dhruv, his eyes still bright with tears, looked up at his mother and said, Who is this Narayan, mother? Where can I find him? Suniti answered, My son, he is called the lotus-eyed one. He removes the miseries and fulfills the desires of those who renounce all and take refuge in him. But he is not easily attainable. After years of strict austerity and penance, yogis have realized him through intense devotion seated deep within their own hearts. Dhruv thought over his mother's words. At night, when everyone was fast asleep, he quietly strolled out of the palace and made towards the deep dark jungles. He walked thus for many days and nights without food, water, or rest, crying out passionately, Vasudev, Narayan, where are you? He asked the lions, the tigers, the bears, and the jackals of the forest if they had seen Narayan. They looked at him in amazement, shook their heads, and walked away. It is said that in the Shastras that when one seeks the light to dispel the darkness in one's heart, the Lord sends to such one a teacher who has uncovered his own inner light. Narad, the great sage, was once sitting his mind blissfully dwelling upon the glories of God, when he heard the sincere cries of Dhruv for the vision of the Lord. Narad therefore set out to meet the boy. He blessed him and tried to test his earnestness by saying, My son, you are still too young to start off on your search for God. Go back to where you belong. People see God after many, many, many years, many lives of striving. These are your days to enjoy. Go and lead a worthy life. Associate yourself with the good and the great. Be kind and generous to all. In all old age, when your duties are over, you can meditate upon the Lord. Dhruv folded his palms respectfully and said, O revered sage, my burning desire is to realize God and to attain the highest goal in life. Pray, please show me the path. Narad was now convinced that Dhruv was indeed a sincere seeker. He taught him japa and showed him how a mind free from restlessness becomes available for meditation. He then taught him how to meditate and gave him the sacred Dvada Shakshara, Dvada, Dvada, Dvada Akshara mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, and asked him to meditate upon it constantly. Make your heart pure and free from all agitations, he said. Feel his loving presence in your heart at all times. Meditate upon him always. See him only at all places in all beings. Devote yourself entirely to his worship, and even in this life you shall realize him. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narad then advised Dhruv to go to Madhuvan on the sacred banks of Yamuna and there to practice meditation and to perform tap. Dhruv prostrated before his teacher and went to the seclusion of Madhuvan to perform penance. During the first few days, his spirit was restless, but soon he found a boundless joy in meditation. He subjected himself to rigorous tap. He undertook terrible fasts, eating only dried leaves and grass, sipping water once in 9 days, and breathing only once in a while. He went into long spells of samadhi. By the fifth month, he had lost all consciousness of the outer world and had entered deeper into meditation. He stopped all movements of his body and stood poised only on the big toe of one foot. The three worlds began to rock, so great was the force of his penance. The earth tilted at the point where his toe pressed the ground. When he stopped his breath in samadhi, the breath of the three worlds also stopped, all but suffocating all the living creatures. The Lord, now thirsty for the darshan of his bhakt, mounted his Garud and gracefully landed in front of him. Slowly Dhruv opened his eyes. He was dazzled by the presence of the Divine Lord. He prostrated full length but could not utter a single word. So struck was he by the resplendence of Sri Narayan. The Lord, full of love and happiness, smiled and in blessing touched Dhruv with his divine Shankh. Dhruv's heart was flooded with love, and in supreme joy he sang the praises of the Lord. Hail to you, Lord of the universe, friend of the poor and afflicted. Grant that I may ever revel in your presence. Grant that my mind be ever engaged in contemplation of your blissful feet. Grant me thy own eternal being. He says, may I enjoy the intimate fellowship, O infinite Lord, of the exalted souls possessed of pure heart and constantly devoted to you, so that I may easily cross the terrible ocean of this sansar full of great perils. May I get drunk with the nectar of your divine virtue and ennobling stories. Narayan said, my child, I know your heart. I grant you your boon. But now you will have to go back to your father and rule the kingdom till your allotted time upon the earth is over. Then you shall ascend to the celestial sphere where the Dev, Gan, Gandharvas and Apsaras constantly chant my glories. Here you shall have a permanent unchanging place and shall be called the Dhruv Nakshatra. In later years men will draw their guidance from you. With this blessing the Lord disappeared. Obeying his command, Dhruv set out on his journey. His father, mothers, and brothers all came out in splendid chariots and carriages to welcome him. He prostrated before his father, bowed low before his mother, and embraced his brother. Suruchi begged for his forgiveness. Suniti embraced him with tears of joy in her eyes. There was a great rejoicing throughout the country. Dhruv was led to the palace with great pomp and show. Dhruv soon succeeded his father as the king. He ruled as a wise and noble ruler for many prosperous years. Towards the end, he left his home and palace and retired to Badrikashram in Himalayas to regain the divine experience of his youth. He spent his days in daily prayers and meditation till finally he again lost his physical consciousness. When the time approached for him to give up on his body, he saw a brilliant vision, a shining chariot of two of the Lord Vishnu's attendants who conducted him to the celestial sphere of Vishnu Lok to become the pole star. It has guided mankind in every age, and to this day Hindus refer to it as the Dhruv Nakshatra. So that's the end of the story of Dhruv. And now let us learn about the story of a descendant of Dhruv, who is King Prithu. So Prithu was a descendant of Dhruv. He was not only a noble ruler, but also a good man. When he was crowned as the king, people spent many days in merrymaking. One day, while the festivities were still going on, news came to him that there was a terrible famine in his land. This famine was not only that of food and grains, but also that of strength and beauty, art and music, love and goodness. King Prithu was sad at the plight of his people and wondered why the earth had stopped her yields. At this time, Mother Earth came up to him in the guise of a cow and said, "O noble king, I know what is the cause of your worry. I have all the seeds of the vegetables and herbs in my bosom. Had I brought them all out at one time, there would have been nothing left for future yagyas. They are all now deep within me, rotting away. I cannot bring them up unless man makes the effort. If he is ready to exert himself, I am ready to give him anything he desires." Prithu and his subjects then leveled the land at the request of earth and prepared it fully. Slowly, because of their sweat and toil, the vegetables and life-giving herbs started coming up. Mother Earth looked green and happy again. Man got his food and grains. The rishis got their food, the Veda. The Devas got their Amrit in a golden pot and also the energies of the Sharir, Man, and Indriyas, the body, the mind, and the sense organs. The Daityas got their wine and intoxicating drinks. The Gandharvas and Apsaras received fragrance, beauty, and sweetness in a lotus vessel. The Siddhas got yogic powers. The Vidyaharas got knowledge. Thus, because they made the effort, Mother Earth fulfilled the desires of all her children. Prithu was so pleased with her that he embraced her and called her for his daughter. That is why she is also known as Prithvi, or the daughter of Prithu. Prithu decided to perform a yajna for the good and benefit of all. To this yajna he invited all the people of earth and the devs from the heaven. Lord Vishnu came down to bless the yajna. He advised Prithu thus: "The wise man does not hate or injure anyone, for he knows that it is I who reside in all beings. The Atma is the ruler of the body, mind, and intellect. He who knows this also knows that birth and death are for the body alone and that the Atma is ever free and immortal. Prithu, you are a wise king. Keep your mind and senses under perfect control and completely devoted to me. Act on in this world. Do not be deluded either by joy or by misery." Prithu, in utter devotion, prostrated before the Lord and said, "O Lord of my heart, I desire nothing but devotion for thee. May my ears hear nothing but thy praises. This is my only prayer." Sri Vishnu then blessed Prithu and returned to Vaikuntha. Then Prithu taught his subjects how to live rightly in this world. He said, "Dedicate yourself entirely to him. When a man has sincere wish to even serve him, his mind becomes free from all the impurities gathered in previous births. If his mind is fixed on Lord's feet, he becomes free from attachment, gains supreme knowledge, and conquers death." One day, Prithu was visited by 4 Sanat Kumars. They said to him, "We have come for your darshan because you are such a wise and noble king. It is a pleasure to meet you because you delight in conversation upon the nature of God. True love for him can be developed by having faith and reverence, by wanting to know the truth, by keeping up spiritual practices, by keeping away from the worldly, by learning to love solitude and quiet, by being kind and truthful, by controlling the senses and passions, by studying the scriptures, by revering the wise and the holy man, and by constantly singing the praise and glory of God. In the ocean of the world, the 6 ferocious sharks are lust, anger, greed, pride, delusion, and jealousy. If you accept God, Lord, Him as your ferryman, He will take your boat across the ocean with perfect ease." Having thus learned from the Sanat Kumars, Prithu started contemplating more and more about the nature of God. He remained in the world with a pure heart, not caring for the enjoyment of kingship. After some time, he made his kingdom over to his son Vijitsava and retired to the solitude of the forest. Here he spent his days in meditation till at last he gave up his body and merged into the infinite Brahman. After Vijitsava, his son became the king. Now, this is the next story. This son was very fond of performing yagyas and sacrifice. This entire countryside was scattered with the blades of kusha grass he used for them. He was called Prachina Barhi. Now, Narad was quite fond of Prasina Barhi, and felt sorry to see him waste his time and energy in performance of the rituals. Now, see, this is interesting. He said to him, Son, why do you waste your time like this? You are only acquiring more karmas. You are slaughtering more and more innocent creatures for your sacrifices. What do you hope to gain by all this? It will never bring you any closer to the realization of the one goal of life. He, Sinabar, was quite bewildered. He looked at Narad, not knowing what was talking about. Holy sage, he said, my mind is not clear. I feel confused. I know I have been attached to the worldly things. Teach me the way out of it. Show me the way to the Supreme. Narad says, I will tell you a story. Then you will understand everything. There once lived a king called Puranjana. He had a very close friend, but he did not know what he did or where he lived. Puranjana roamed all over the world trying to find a city where he could live, but none would satisfy him. He wanted to live in a place where all his desires would be satisfied. At last he came across a beautiful city to the south of the Himalayas. The city had stately palaces, beautiful gardens, and cool, clear lakes. It had 9 gates. Puranjana loved the city at once. He thought, this is the right place for me. Sometime soon after, he met a beautiful young lady strolling in the gardens with her companions and attendants. Puranjana asked her to marry him. She said to him, I am the princess of this land. If you will be the king, I will willingly be your queen. All my attendants shall be your attendants. Live here and enjoy. Puranjana married her, and became very attached to her indeed. So much so that if she wept, he wept. If she laughed, he laughed. If she saw, he saw. If she heard, he heard. But slowly, little by little, he came to lose his independence. For many years he lived thus a slave to his wife. He found that he could enjoy himself through the 9 city gates, but never was he completely satisfied. His pleasures were always small and fleeting. He never got any lasting comfort or happiness. One day, the city was attacked and stormed by King Fear. It was completely destroyed. Puranjana was driven out of it. He went out knocking about like a madman, with no other thought in his mind but that of his beautiful wife. Thus he spent his last days. Then in his next birth, he was born as a lovely young girl who married a king called Malayadwaja. She loved her husband very much. One day, however, she found him cold in death. She could not bear to live without him. Weeping constantly, she prepared to burn herself on her husband's funeral pyre. At that moment, a kindly old Brahmin walked up to her and said, Oh, my friend, what have you come to? Have you forgotten me, your own dear friend? You deserted me and left me in search of small enjoyments and pleasures. You became attached to a woman and lost your sense of independence. You got caught in this web of Maya. But do you not realize that you are not the wife of the dead man, nor were you the husband before? That you are neither man nor woman? That you are my own self, the one eternal reality? So arise, shed your weaknesses, awake to this truth. Prasinna Barhi then requested Narad to explain the story to him, so Narad continued. Puranjan in the story stands for Purush, self, the one friend he has in Brahman, the Lord. Verily, nobody knows what he does or where he lives. Now, the Purush goes in search of a place to dwell in, where maximum number of his desires can be satisfied. He looks around but finds none to his satisfaction till at last he finds him at the city of the 9 gates, the human body. This he enters and starts enjoying himself. The wife he finds is the intellect. United with it, he enjoys the worlds and worldly things. Identifying completely with this intellect or ego, he forgets his own divine nature and becomes full of ignorance and vanity. The attacking general is the all-destroying time, using disease and death as his weapon. These ultimately destroy the body. Once man forgets his divine nature and runs after the fleeting pleasures of the world, he becomes bound by his deeds. His deeds decide his future birth. And when he regains his previous birth, previous knowledge, when he realizes that he is none other than the eternal Brahman, only then does he become free of karma. This is a very important lesson. So I hope you have listened carefully. Therefore, devote yourself to your one friend, for he is but you. Love him and be free. He followed Narad's teaching. He gave his kingdom to his sons and retired to Kapilashram at the month of Ganges, at the mouth of the Ganges to practice this way of truth. He lived in solitude and came to realize Brahman as his own true self. He was very sincere. He learned at the feet of his master. He practiced what he was taught. He came close to God. He became one with him. So we are going to take the pause. This story and sub-story came from the first son of Manu Maharaj, who is the Uttanapad. Next time when we meet, we will start with the story of the second son of Manu, who is Priyavrata. So till then, please take care of yourself. And a big question is how to use the very precious and limited time that we all have. And here, that last one bit is very important to not get trapped in the kingdom with 9 gates, this body. This body is not the ultimate destination. It is an instrument which helps us get to the ultimate destination. So please make sure that you keep these in perspective and not give any undue importance, significance to the body. So next time we will meet, we will learn about the story of Priyavrata. Till then, namaskar and namaste.